Hello, and welcome back to the Book Marketing Tips and Author Success Podcast. This is Penny Sansevieri and Amy Cornell, and today we are talking about indie bookstores, not just about the store, but how to get into the store, how to work with these independent bookstores, because we love independent books. I mean, we love all bookstores, but we really love independent bookstores. And I think that, there are a couple of sites out there like bookshop.org and indiebound.org where authors can get their books listed. But part of the reason why we wanted to do this podcast is because there's so much more that you can do with independent bookstores.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, these are our local bookstore. I mean, one in particular, I would say, okay, see, now I'm already excited and everybody's like, she can't get a single thought out. So one, I would say, let me preface this by saying, if you're not following your local bookstores on social media, follow them. If you're not on social media, a lot of them do have newsletters and things like that. So sign up for that. Get to know them and what they do, because I know when we talk about local, I think sometimes, Penny, if people aren't really involved with their local retail stores, they probably think they make it sound so easy, but that's not the case here. It's like you might be pleasantly surprised if you actually kind of get a little more intimately involved with these places. One of our local bookstores does so much in the community just for special events. They get involved in every single holiday and do special. They do, oh my gosh, for Valentine's Day, you can book a dedicated time slot in the bookstore to do like a romantic dinner with your partner or your girlfriends and have it catered in. Yes, it's so cool. They do so many fun things. There's so many things to get involved in. And usually a lot of them are in really cool parts of town for the most part, very walkable areas. So they get a lot more foot traffic than I think a lot of people give them credit for too. It's easy to forget how much of an impulse experience bookstores can be too, which is why they're so fun and why, you know what I mean? They usually kind of hold a special place for a lot of people, that it's such a, you know what I mean? It's such a whimsical experience. Another one nearby that is opening up, I'm like counting down the days, is they're specifically going to be a bookstore and wine shop. So you can go and do a wine tasting and they have books for sale. They're going to do book club meetings there. I'm like, well, this is just brilliant. Like,
oh my gosh, that's a great idea. And that's the fun part about these independent bookstores, because they're not tied to kind of a corporate mantra. So they can do these, they can get really creative, they can do these things. So yeah, that's a great idea. I mean, follow them on social. They probably all have Instagram accounts. Definitely want to follow them. Now, the whole objective of this podcast, this particular episode, is not just to be alerted as to what's going on with what your bookstore is doing, but also to get your book into stores, getting to know your local bookstores, getting your book into stores, and potentially doing an event. So the first thing that you really need to have is you need to have a press kit, an author one sheet, a book one sheet, information put together in a single sheet about your book that presents you in a really professional manner. And Amy, you've worked with a lot of, I don't know if you've done a lot of book one sheets because they're usually done by another staffer, but you've had a lot of input into these.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And I get to see them because I work, one-on-one with all of our clients. So when these come through, I always snoop, when it comes out through an email that the one sheet's ready, or the book one sheet or the author one sheet or their press kit's ready. I'm always like, ooh, exciting. And I always go and look, and it really is such a big deal. And I can't tell you how often we have clients ask us for materials like this, Penny, that didn't include it with their original contract. And it may not be something that they were planning on, but it's always cool when they ask, because it means good things are happening for them. They're like, I'm talking to this, this local retail shop, and I might be doing an event. Can you make this for me? Or, you know what I mean? I talked to my librarian. Can you make this for me? Because they have some things coming. Like, it's always for really good reasons, or because they've gotten a book request from a media outlet or an influencer or something like that. And they're like, I need to have my stuff, my media stuff ready. And so it's always really exciting when we get a request for one of them because it's always means good things. But it's something that you should always have in your arsenal and ready to go, both in digital and printed out on really good paper. Like
Yeah.
don't be cheap on the printouts
Yeah.
with these.
Yeah, exactly. And we love them. We create them for our authors just because there are so many different uses for them. So I think the next point of this, Amy, do you want to take the next point? Because I don't want to, I'm really excited about the show. So you're going to have to tell me to shut up because otherwise I'm just going to.
Yeah, I mean, and this is something that, okay, so for our clients, we get the ball rolling. Let's pull back the curtain here a little bit. We do bookstore pitching, we do event pitching, we do library pitching, we do a lot of that. But realistically, it's always just about getting the ball rolling. You know what I mean? We make the introductions, we get it started, but it really is so important for you to go in and introduce yourself to the staff, to the owner, to the manager. I mean, the impact that that makes as a follow-up. I mean, that's what we encourage our authors to do. Like, we're going to get the ball rolling on this, and we want you to follow up by going in and introducing yourself, bringing a copy of the book. I mean, it's these multiple touches that can really make a huge difference. But you have to remember that it's not just about you. Like, let's put it very plainly. As much as you want it to be about you and we want it to be about you, strategically, you also need to make it about the store because they are there for a reason. They are not there just to give you free publicity, right? Or to help you sell your book. Like, they want something out of it as well. So you need to be actively involved in letting them know how you are going to support the book. You are going to support the store. There's so many different ways to do this. So, I mean, Penny, do you want to start telling them the different ways that, you can kind of create this mutually beneficial relationship?
Well, but I mean, I think that, you getting to know the store. I love the idea of going in, introducing yourself, getting to know the staff, but also I think start going to some of the events that they have. And not just, don't just show up wanting your own event, show up and support their events, right? So you want to be both, obviously you're your own advocate, but you also want to be a voice for the bookstore, which is also important. So, helping them and even like sharing posts on your social media, be a networker, be a friend. And if you have, an active social media account, as I mentioned, share it on your social media. If you have a regular newsletter, mention the store, give them props. Get specific about why you're a fan, encourage others in the area to check them out. And I think that the more that you can start to show your support for them, because they are a community hub, the more that they will appreciate that and hopefully support you in return.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's amazing how far, especially for these smaller independent stores in general, how far a like and a comment on social media can go.
Very much so.
You know what I mean? Like, these are not people that are used to getting 10,000 likes, hundreds of comments. Like, they are working their butts off just like you are to get out there in front of more people and to drive traffic. So those little things that may not seem like a big deal matter. And, if you're familiar with them, put a review online for the store too. That goes a long way. Put a positive review online for the store on Google or on Yelp, or you know what I mean? Like Penny said, start being an advocate within your community for these spaces, and they will. So it's not just about, hey, help me sell my book. It's like, no, this is somebody that's actively involved in the book community.
Yeah, exactly. And I think also, you can make sure that they're also hearing from you regularly, so you can drop off bookmarks and bag swag that they can hand out to customers, even if they're not stocking your book in their stores. Just make sure that you are, popping in and letting them know that you're a local author. And then I also think that you want to make sure that there's an alignment with your local store. So local indie bookstores, they love their local authors. But if your book isn't a right fit for the market, they won't take it. That doesn't mean that you don't shouldn't support them, because you absolutely should. But sometimes local bookstores are specialized, like mystery bookstores, and we have one here in San Diego. Um, but then you could also consider a geographic alignment too. So if you wrote a book about a specific place, so I was listening actually to a lecture from a small bookstore, and she said, we would never carry a book. We're in Ohio or something. We would never carry a book about, vacationing in like another state, because, like, let's say 9 things to do in the Grand Canyon that you shouldn't miss, or whatever, right?
Mhm.
She said, because the likelihood, she goes, not that the Grand Canyon isn't a great place to go visit, she goes, but the likelihood of there being a customer match to that book is pretty minimal.
Mhm.
So,
Right.
you're better off somewhere, you're better off focusing geographically on someplace nearby the Grand Canyon. And we did a separate show on those kinds of specialized bookstores. So make sure that there is, an alignment with what the bookstore carries, um, geographically. If your bookstore, and as I said, if your bookstore doesn't want to carry it, but still, support them. It's really, really important to support them, because you never know down the road. And most small bookstores, they know each other, right? So if you're traveling to another part of the country or another part of the state, they may be able to hook you up with, other stores to do events and things like that.
Right, absolutely. I assure you that, my local bookstore is and vice versa, absolutely tracking, the indie bookstores that are in the next big city over. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They know each other.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Like
absolutely.
they definitely know who is out there, and they're usually really supportive of each other too, which is the
Yeah,
cool things.
very much
You
so.
know, I think it's a good reminder that local doesn't necessarily have to be within a 5 mile driving distance. You know what I mean? Like, really, you can start building your local out as you get comfortable with this. There's
Yeah.
no reason not to. Um, we kind of mentioned this, but definitely don't be shy about dropping off an art copy or even two by your store. Just taking it in, letting them know again, especially if you don't know them on a first name basis by now, based on all of our recommendations. But introduce yourself, let them know this is your book that's coming out, or an extra copy of your book that just released. Just, I would say, go into it. My personal recommendation, go into it with without specific recommendations, and just let them know, like, you're a book expert. You are somebody that people listen to. Like, I would love it if you'd take a time to look it over. Here's my card. Let me know what you think. If there's any way we can collaborate or any recommendations you have, just use that to open up, to get the conversation started.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I think it's a really good point. I'm glad that you brought that up, because a lot of times authors they get arcs and they don't really know, like, oh, where am I going to, send all these? They're very, very hyper focused on sending them out to reviewers, but drop, one or two by your local indie bookstores, and just let them know, because a lot of times bookstores have a limited amount of time that they can order, right? So um they may not necessarily be able to order a book if it's older. So you definitely want to get to them early on and let them know that you have a book coming out for sure. Um, and I think the next one, Amy, do you want to take the next one? But I think the next one is something we've talked about a lot on calls, but it's definitely worth mentioning.
Right. And obviously, for those of you with your book out already, this may be kind of one of those, like, sketchy moments sometimes, where we say things and people are go, oh, why do they talk about that? Your cover, obviously, we like Penny said, we talk about covers all the time, but this is when, it's really hard to get a subpar cover by somebody when you're standing there handing them a copy of your book. you know
Yeah.
so this is absolutely, online retail, that's one thing. Obviously, it's still very important. We harp about covers all the time, but this is just another reason to keep it in mind why an excellent cover matters, why you shouldn't skimp on that. We just did a show on, shortcuts we love and hate, but your cover should be something that you really, don't go into debt for it, but it matters. And imagine when you're making those decisions, handing over a copy of your book to a local retail store that might consider stocking it. Keep those kind of opportunities in mind when you're making those decisions about what to do with your cover.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's also worth mentioning, make sure that your book or your books are available through Ingram and returnable. I know this is a big one. I know the returns are the scourge of the publishing industry. I completely get it, but bookstores cannot carry the book if it's not returnable. There has to be some kind of you have to play by the rules. So Ingram, make sure that they're listed and returnable. That's a big thing for bookstores. And I think, Amy, finally, I mean, do you want to take the last one? Because we've talked about this, I know, during the show, but it's definitely worth mentioning again.
Yeah, I think this is the biggest overarching concept with anything local, is that you have to be a successful collaborator. Make sure your indie store knows that you aren't just serious about your success, but theirs as well. So we talk about this a lot. You need to have a plan. You need to be out there. You need to put yourself out there. Like, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. If you say that, oh, I really don't like putting myself out there like that. I just want to write and I want people to love my books, but I really just want to write behind the scenes. That's really not how this works anymore, So you need to get engaged with these individuals. This is where all the millions of times where we've talked about having at least one key social media account that you're really putting some effort into connecting with your reader market. This is where that really helps for sure. We do social media coaching for a lot of our clients, Penny, and that's something that we often recommend that they do as some additional content that doesn't have anything to do with their books. But be a good citizen in your community. Be somebody that supports other small businesses, because as an author, you are a small business, So if there's a place you love to go get coffee, give them a shout out on your social. You know what I mean? Comment on their stuff, like their stuff. Be that person that's engaging with other local small businesses, because when you approach an indie bookstore, these are the kind of things that they're going to want to look at. They want to know, is this person collaborating with this person going to be worth my time, or are they just looking for a bunch of free publicity?
Yes,
and
exactly.
Like we already mentioned this, they're a small business too, working their asses off. All right. Most of them do not have time to just give you free marketing and publicity.
Right. And they also have, I mean, and to Amy's point, yes, they do work really, really hard. They usually are working off of really narrow margins. So understand that whatever time that they give you, whatever advice that they give you is extremely valuable, because if their doors are open, they know how to be successful. But yeah, definitely be a successful collaborator. And, I hope this has inspired you to go out to some of your local independent bookstores. And if you don't have any in your town, maybe the town over, I mean, definitely walk in the door, introduce yourself, take this opportunity to really start to get to know them and collaborate with them, and be an indie bookstore advocate, because we all love our indie bookstores. Thank you so much for tuning in. This was a really fun show. I was looking forward to doing this one in particular. We love to hear from you. So feel free to drop us a line anytime. We love reviews wherever you listen to podcasts. If you can't post it on the podcast site, because I know they don't always make it very easy, feel free to email the review to us and we'll put it up on our website. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.